Hello, and thank you for joining me at Great American Movie Review. This is another short form, spoiler free style review for new releases. This week we'll be covering Martin Scorsese's latest film, Killers of the Flower Moon. For those who don't know what the film is about, Killers of the Flower Moon takes place in 1920s Oklahoma as a series of murders targeting the Osage people who own the land goes without intervention for some time. More specifically, this film follows Ernest Burkhart, who's played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who's a simple-minded veteran who is manipulated by his uncle, King William Hale, played by Robert De Niro, who is a wealthy man that is trying to manipulate native familial wealth in his favor by any means necessary. As I said earlier, this is Scorsese's latest. Martin Scorsese obviously goes without saying one of the greatest filmmakers ever, maybe even the most consistent filmmaker across his whole career in terms of just the level of quality that his films have been since he came onto the scene in 1973 with Mean Streets. And this is just yet another example of why he's regarded as one of the best to ever do it, because he just simply is. And this apparently was a pretty personal project to him. I don't know where his investment in this particular topic came from, but I mean, it fits in line with a lot of his other type of filmography. So it's not that surprising, but Scorsese actually has a screenwriting credit on this, along with Eric Roth, who is a very well known person within the industry. He wrote Forrest Gump, Munich. He even wrote as recently as like things like Denis Villeneuve's Dune. So they teamed up to write this script, which is an adaptation of the book by David Gran. It's kind of a strange state of the industry that we're living in right now with the streaming situation, and now it's all fractured and everything, but and people like Martin Scorsese, who for years have just made some of the best films of all time, are now having to go to these streamers to get their passion projects made, and their films like The Irishman, which Scorsese did on Netflix for a cool sum of money. And this one, again, is apparently a $200 million budgeted film. And this one's produced by Apple. But thankfully, unlike The Irishman, Apple has actually committed to theatrical distribution. So this massive historical drama is not just going to have to be watched at home, but you can actually go see this wide release in a theater. And I'll highly suggest that you do. Now, I will say it is a very long movie. It's almost 3.5 hours, which has kind of become the standard for Scorsese. His last number of films have either gotten close to or even crossed that 3 hour mark. But frankly, I'll take it up because every second of a Scorsese movie that we get at this point in his career, I mean, the man's in his 80s, and I will take every second that I could get that he's going to share with us on screen. As already mentioned, the film stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, which is actually, I think, the first time that those two actors who have been Scorsese's go tos over the years have worked together in one of his films. So it's kind of a joy just to see those two work together. That being said, this movie is not a joy to watch. This is a dour film. The film also stars Lily Gladstone, who is a Native American woman, an Osage woman that Leonardo DiCaprio's character falls in love with, and Robert De Niro's character wants to take advantage of her familial wealth, specifically in this situation, where if his nephew marries her and then gets control of her assets, then he can get control of the asset. And De Niro just plays such a scumbag in this, and it's even worse because of the way he just presents himself as friend to these people, and just like behind the scenes, like early on you have these conversations where it's just it's the sprinkling and like the menace, the true intentions of it aren't just laid out for you, but you fully understand where this guy stands very quickly, even though he's very good at dancing around the actual subjects, which I think, I mean, that's true. Like, taking the wealthy people don't do their own dirty work. They get other people to do it for them, and they sit back and say, no, I was a friend to you this whole time, through this whole experience, through these tragedies. I have been a friend to you. And he plays this character perfectly. Like, it's unlike most Robert De Niro performances. Like, it's not like the classic gangster one, which you got kind of revisited in The Irishman. This is a completely different character, and he's so good in it. DiCaprio is kind of your lead here, which is, I say kind of because his character isn't that motivated. He's not the one actually propelling the action in the film. It's more so his lack of doing things on his own judgment on his, that is what's driving this movie going forward, his manipulation. Because it's interesting because he truly does love the Lily Gladstone character, whose name is Molly. He truly does love her. He falls in love with this woman, and he's doing things because he's just a simpleton. He's really just pathetic character from the beginning of this movie to the end of this movie. He is just pathetic. One of maybe the most pathetic leading character I've seen in a movie in some time, if not ever. And this movie's a long movie, and you're watching somebody who is just so easily used. As far as the actual plot of the movie, I mean, it's historical events, so there's not really spoilers per se. I know I said this is spoiler free, and it is. I'm just giving you general plot details, but its presentation is not stylized in the way that, like, Scorsese's gangster films are. This is not a very stylish film. It's very dry looking, very much intentionally so. Cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto, who's worked on things like Brokeback Mountain, Argo, even Barbie earlier this year, so this is kind of a big year for him. But also, he's worked on the last four Scorsese films with Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, and The Irishman. I mean, the widescreen, definitely see this in a theater, like I already said. If you can stomach, like, sitting at a theater for close to 4 hours once you take in the previews to consideration. But if you can stomach that, then absolutely see this in a theater, because he uses the full range of those wide shots in this film. And it's, like I said, it was very dry looking, but it is also very beautiful. And then also kind of intentionally not so. But this is not one of Scorsese's more stylishly made films. This is a true period drama. It has some of his other elements that are bubbling under, which, you see his, maybe that's part of where the draw is for him there to some extent, beyond just telling the story. That seems, this is an important story to tell, of just a dark, you can't even say corner. This is just a dark period of American history that frankly is not even over yet, which is a terrible thing to even think about, but it isn't. So there's a great cast in this movie, and I mentioned Lily Gladstone before as the Native American woman who marries DiCaprio's character, and she might be the standout in the acting in this movie, which is a crazy thing among these other, people in it. But because there's a big cast here, even like Brendan Fraser and John Lithgow show up in very small roles later in the movie, and other just character actors and familiar faces just popping up, as well as a great supporting cast of a lot of Native American actors as well. But Lily Gladstone gets to really be the face of this movie, and there's about an hour of it where she's a little bit sidelined, but there's such a complex and rich character there that is trying to grapple with these tragedies and still being with her husband, like, and loving her husband and trusting her husband. She doesn't, know everything that's going on. She's kind of in the dark for a lot of this. But this is a film that requires multiple viewings. I know I've been kind of broad a little bit with how I'm talking about this and not getting too much into it, but my own feelings on this, I think this is one of those that requires multiple viewings to really kind of soak it in. And it's a long one, so those viewings, that second viewing might be a little bit, and it's also heavy. Like, it's not an easy watch necessarily. It has, like I said, it has some of those gangster elements, which is really interesting. It's more the organized crime aspect of it, where like you have like a Henry Hill character, with the rise fall arc. This doesn't have that rise fall, but it has the same almost structure to it as like a Goodfellas. Just it's all depravity. It's like I said, the DiCaprio character has no, motivation. He's not like somebody that you're watching, rise through something, which is always satisfying in some way when you see somebody become successful. Somebody like you're rooting for. It's weird and stuff like Goodfellas where you're rooting for somebody that's doing horrible things to like keep doing the horrible things because it's satisfying to watch that rise. But then you need that fall at the end to, make it come around because it can't just get away with it. This is not that. This is just a character that is almost hard to watch because of how pathetic he is, like I've already said. So it's not the easiest watch in the world, but I do want to watch it again just to like really soak it in, having seen the whole scope of it now. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And like I said, great cast, great performances, great filmmaking. One of the best filmmakers of all time, just kind of knocking it out of the park once again. I don't know if this is one of my favorites of his, but once again, I just need to sit on it for a bit longer. It's heavy, it is bleak, and it's kind of been a strange year for movies because of all the strikes going on and things getting delayed, and we're still coming out of the post-pandemic era, even though it's kind of still the pandemic era, and recovery is there, but then, like I said, the strikes kind of delaying certain things. So, I mean, this is going to be talked about come award season for sure. Like, just in every major category. Right now, it seems like it's this and Oppenheimer right now. We'll probably get a few more things later in the year, but this is kind of what we're looking at right now as far as like your Oscar race goes. So if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, then definitely see this one. But also just like it's an important movie. I think this is an important story, and on top of that, it's a great film. It truly is. It has these elements. There are bursts of violence in here that resemble some of his other films, but like I said, it has none of like the flash to it. It's all just like it's very blunt. It is sudden and it just happens, and it's not even, I wouldn't say gratuitous. I would just say that it's just, like I said, very blunt. But yeah, that's just kind of my general thoughts on Killers of Flower Moon right now. I'll probably try to like think about it more, honestly. I just wanted to get this review out there because I think people really should see this movie, even though I don't like have my thoughts fully formed on it yet. Yeah, if anybody has any thoughts on the film or just a favorite Scorsese movie that they want to bring up, just leave a comment, like this video, give us a subscribe if you want to hear more of this kind of content. Usually I'm a little bit more specific, but like I said, I don't have my thoughts fully down on this one yet. It's just a lot to take in. But yeah, that'll do it for this little mini episode of Great American Movie Review. Thanks for joining me.